Welcome to the Keyswide Home Elevation Education Project. My name is Caroline Horn and I'm the manager of FERM, which stands for Fair Insurance Rates in Monroe. FERM is a nonprofit organization that advocates for fair and affordable windstorm and flood insurance for Monroe County residents and businesses. In this first module, I'm going to provide a summary of the project and our goals. The City of Key West, along with Monroe County Extension Services, and FERM are collaborating to help homeowners elevate their homes out of the floodplain. The project is funded by a seed grant awarded to the City of Key West. So what is the project about? Why elevate? Monroe County is a special flood hazard area. 10,000 properties have been targeted by the Army Corps of Engineers for elevation, floodproofing, or acquisition. We'll talk about that study and the funding it may provide in Module 4. Flooding caused by storm surge, heavy rain events, and even sunny day flooding contributes to the loss of personal items, missed work days, poor environmental conditions, and emotional stress caused by homelessness, expense, and grief. So what homes are at risk and could benefit from elevation? The oldest homes are stick-built or frame homes that were built on higher ground, sturdy, and can be elevated or moved fairly easily. Almost oldest homes were built after World War II and are often concrete slab on grade, difficult and expensive to elevate, and they typically house full-time workforce and multi-generational families. We know that many property owners want to elevate but have no idea where to start. That's where our project comes in to help put some of the puzzle pieces together. The project team has researched methods, costs, barriers, financing, and more to clear the way. It has been and will continue to be a learning process for us. We've researched previous elevation projects and compiled one-page summaries that will be available on the project page on the FERM website. By the way, you can find the project page by visiting firmkeys.org, and you'll see the link to the project page right on our homepage. We're conducting these workshops that will be available for viewing online on the project page, and they also include presentations from 5 local government officials discussing considerations specific to their jurisdictions. Models 3 and 4 address the technical aspects of elevation and offer reviews of traditional and non-traditional funding options for your project. A group of contractors, engineers, architects, and local government officials completed the Home Raising Academy course. Contractors who completed that course and who complete our request for qualifications will be listed on the project page as well. If there is enough interest throughout the Keys, the project partners hope to be able to secure price discounts for homeowners by bundling local projects so elevation companies can combine multiple projects in a single visit to the Keys. There's no cost to participate in the project and no obligation to elevate. We know that some of you aren't quite ready, and with federal and state funding a few years away, it is our goal for residents to be prepared to elevate when the funding does become available. In the meantime, we also talk about other floodproofing methods in Module 2. If you haven't already, visit the project page and look around. We're still adding information and we'll be updating it as necessary. Sign up to get email updates and to receive FERM's newsletter. We promise not to fill up your inbox. And if you have questions or if there's something we overlooked, call or email the FERM office. Thank you for joining us in this education project. The goal is to learn together as we go to make Monroe County an example for other communities who also face increased flood risk.
Hello, I'm Alison Higgins, the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Key West, and working on sea level rise issues have made me keenly aware of the number of houses in our floodplain, which is why I started this program to get information into your hands. It has been great to work with FERM to make this pilot program happen, and we intend to do much more. Now let's get into it. So why elevate? I'm guessing you're here watching because you're motivated by at least one reason. I'm here to share there are many reasons to elevate, and many of those are financial. In studying hurricane claims, FEMA found that every $1 spent on mitigation, which is protecting something from being damaged in the first place, saves 7 times that amount in fixing it after it's ruined. It's obviously the greener thing to do. When I lived on Big Pine, Hurricane Wilma led to hundreds of washer dryers all hauled out to the roadway. It was a crazy sight and wasteful. From a historical and cultural perspective, a replica is not the same as the actual historic building. If we don't protect these, they will be lost forever. And this last one is one of my favorites. Can you imagine if a post-hurricane cleanup was easy? No surge means no mold, no soaked rugs, no ruined furniture and cabinets. You just come back from the evacuation and walk back in your day-to-day life. You have stopped the cycle of flooding, which is exactly the large motivator behind this project. From the personal side, everyone knows someone that had their house surge soaked during Hurricane Irma. Maybe it was your house. Then you know that there's not only the cost of replacement, but the cost of labor, the cost of cleanup, and the health costs of stress, mold, etc., and time off work, and the sadness over sentimental items that cannot be replaced. From the hurricane response side, our local emergency management and hospitals do a fantastic job at being prepared to handle emergencies and respond to them. But mitigation actions within the community before the disaster helps reduce the number of emergencies they need to handle. This allows everyone to bounce back faster. Now, let's get into another financial reason that most haven't thought about: real estate. Communities that have started elevating in earnest have changed the value system for home buyers, strongly increasing the value of raised homes versus not raised homes. Also, in terms of value, space is a premium in the Keys. Imagine if you could park under your home or have storage space, a workshop. That's definitely value added. Currently, there still aren't a lot of people thinking about sea level rise when they are buying a house in the Keys, but they all see the insurance estimates for flood and wind, which has definitely canceled some purchases. The good news, whether you're thinking of selling or not, is a recent state resolution that seeks to protect that increased value post-elevation. As written, the approved ballot measure will not increase the taxable value of your newly elevated home, therefore won't increase your property taxes. But you'll still have to vote on it on the 2022 ballot to make a reality in 2023. Lastly, and highest on everyone's mind, is savings and flood insurance. Most people in the Keys that have a mortgage have flood insurance because it's required. If you have a mortgage but didn't have to have flood insurance, please check firm's website to see if the new FEMA maps might change this. If you have insurance, when the FEMA maps get updated, you'll stay homesteaded under the original rate, which can only increase slowly. Also, with insurance, any new buyer gets to take advantage of your rate. This is known as grandfathering. No insurance before the new maps means buyers have to pay the higher rates, which hurts your sale. Again, for those not looking to sell, the price of staying put is rising too. As you can see here, the rates for flood zones have changed a lot in just the last 5 years. But notice where the lowest premiums are, at the highest houses. These preferred risk properties have also had the least increases. Elevation is one way to become a preferred risk property and reduce those premiums. For each foot above base flood elevation, also known as BFE, you save more money on your premiums. 3 feet above BFE gives you the most savings on your insurance. So this wraps up the Why Elevate section of our webinar. More details on all of these subjects can be found on firm's website. Next up, we'll hear from our local government officials on the rules you'll have to think about in elevating your home. Each local government has their own video, so find the one that pertains to where you live. After this, Module 2 will deal with retrofitting, which details how to avoid flooding while you're still saving up for elevation. Module 3 lists the steps of elevating your home, making you familiar with terms used by contractors. And Module 4 describes the funding options which may be available to help you elevate. And so this wraps up my section. Thank you for your time and interest.
Welcome to the Keyswide Home Elevation Education Project, Module 2, FEMA's Homeowner's Guide to Retrofitting. My name is Caroline Horn, and I'm the manager of FIRM. In this module, we'll review retrofitting methods. Retrofitting is making changes to an existing building to protect it from flooding or other hazards. Methods include elevation, wet flood proofing, relocation, dry flood proofing, levee and flood wall, and demolition and rebuild. The cost of retrofitting varies depending on many factors, but typically elevation, relocation, and demo and rebuild are the most expensive methods, followed by flood walls and levees, and then wet flood proofing and dry flood proofing. This table gives you an idea of what kind of construction types and foundations are the most expensive to elevate. You'll learn as you continue to participate in this project, the cost of elevating varies. It depends on many factors, including how much work needs to be done to your foundation, what other improvements you're making, the type of construction, the cost of materials, which we know are higher in Monroe County than in most places, and so on. Each project will be different, and you'll be able to work with your contractor to control some factors. We know that everyone here just wants to know how much will it cost, but it's complicated. So I'm going to focus on wet and dry flood proofing in this module, since elevation is covered extensively elsewhere, and flood walls and levees are not practical in the Keys with our limited buildable land. Elevation and relocation reduce insurance premiums, while wet and dry flood proofing reduce your risk of loss. So what does this mean? If you elevate or relocate your structure above the floodplain, obviously your insurance premium will be reduced. If you are not ready to elevate because of the cost or other factors, wet and dry flood proofing methods may help you protect your property and make your cleanup faster and less costly, but no credits will be applied to reduce your premium. Wet flood proofing allows floodwaters to enter your home, and dry flood proofing keeps the water out for limited depth and duration. So if the water is allowed in, then wet flood proofing methods are for spaces where you can easily move your possessions out of the way or are uninhabited. These methods can include flood vents installed in portions of your home that are not inhabited, such as crawl space or storage enclosure, installing pumps to help the water move out, elevating or relocating your mechanical systems and large appliances, and so on. Anywhere in your home, you can also use flood damage resistant materials such as concrete, tile, stone, pressure treated and decay resistant lumber, and epoxy coatings that resist the damage and are easier to clean up. Dry flood proofing involves completely sealing the building exterior up to a certain height to prevent the floodwater from entering. Water may still seep in, so you may need some sort of drainage system. This can be achieved with water-resistant coatings or membranes and shields for openings. Because the walls are exposed to the pressure of the water, these methods are only suitable for concrete or masonry structures or low flood depths of 2 to 3 feet. Before you invest in any of these methods, talk with your insurance agent to determine the value. As I said, you won't get credit towards your premium, but if it saves you money and stress by reducing your risk, it may be worth it. Additionally, commercial buildings do receive credit from some methods of flood proofing. Talk to your insurance professional. This slide shows examples of wet and dry flood proofing methods and their price ranges. These may require professional design services and installation by a contractor. On the top left, engineered flood vents allow water to flow in one direction and prevent it from flowing back into your home. On the top right, we've all seen elevated air conditioners and pool equipment. And at the bottom, the shields are called easy dams. We're not endorsing this product, but when I reached out to the company with questions, they did give me some price ranges. FEMA's Homeowner's Guide to Retrofitting is an excellent resource for homeowners and contractors, as well as above the flood, elevating your flood-prone home. Both of these documents are available as PDFs online, and we'll include links on the project page. They are large files, they're booklets actually, So if anyone would like a hard copy, contact the firm office. We have a few and can order more. Visit the project page often and look around. We're still adding information and we'll be updating as it is necessary. Sign up to get your email updates and to receive firm's monthly newsletter. Again, we promise not to fill up your inbox. And if you have questions or if there's something we overlooked, call or email the firm office. Thank you again for watching this module.
Hello, everybody. My name is Erica Poole, and I am an architect with K2M Design, as well as a firm board member and secretary. I am presenting the video workshop module 3, which goes over the different steps to elevation for an existing structure. There are quite a few steps when it comes to elevating an existing building. Many of them include verifying your existing conditions, coordinating with contractors and your local utilities and local building departments, as well as evaluating finances and closing everything up. The first one that you will do is start to evaluate financing options, which we will be going over in module 4, which comes right after this one. The second would be to get an elevation certificate and or a land survey. When you're getting an elevation certificate, you want to focus on spot elevations, and same with when you get a land survey as well. An engineered foundation and an architectural design is going to be required as well. This is going to be the substructure for underneath your new home once it's raised up, as well as how it's going to look once it's raised. Is it columns? Is it louvered space, crawl space? There's multiple options that we will go over. After you've figured out your engineering and your design, you're going to want to reach out to local contractors to start getting estimates for the work. And this involves home raising contractors as well as your standard general contractor who's going to coordinate all of your subs. Once you've reviewed all this, you move into contract signing and obtaining the necessary permits, which the permits will come from your local utilities as well as your local building department. Once you've received your permits, one of the first things that happens is that you will be disconnected from water and sewer and electricity as they prepare the structure for home elevation. This also involves any clearing or moving around of existing plant materials, sheds, etc., in order for them to access the building. After that is structural elevation and relocation. This is when your home starts to look like it's up on Lincoln logs and the raising process begins. Once the home is raised up a little higher than the final elevation it will be at, a new foundation is constructed. We can go over a few of the different foundation types a little bit later on in this module. After that, and everything's been inspected and approved by your local building department, the home gets lowered onto the new and improved foundation. New foundations have to be designed to the most recent Florida building code that is accepted in your area, and they will be very strong and sturdy. From there, you will be reconnecting your utilities as well as building stairs, ramps, new patios, whatever it is that you're going to attach onto the house in order to get up to that new height. The final stage is to finish it up, clean it, make it look all beautiful, get some additional concrete work finished, as well as finalizing your landscaping. One of the first things that you're going to want to do after the Module 4 portion of financing is to start looking at getting an elevation certificate or a boundary survey of your property. A FEMA elevation certificate establishes what the current elevation above your base flood is. So if you are in an AE8 zone, and you see that on your elevation certificate, your first floor is at 4 feet, you're going to, in order to raise your home above flood plus the required freeboard, you're going to be raising your home by 5 feet. Currently, the required freeboard varies from 1 foot to 3 foot throughout Florida. So it's definitely beneficial to check with your local floodplain administrator at the building department to make sure that you're doing this process once and raising to the correct elevation that you should be going to. If you are in a V zone, you will see something called VE. A V zone requires that the bottom of the lowest horizontal structural member, as opposed to the first habitable floor level, is located at your design flood elevation, which is your base flood plus freeboard. So both of these different zones have different considerations associated with them. An elevation certificate is also going to tell you the height of some of the equipment associated with your house. So that could be your AC condensers outside, if you've got a wall-mounted water heater, anything associated with your utility equipment, that height will also be called out. And in the process of raising your home, you will likely want to be raising all of your equipment above to the new design flood elevation as well. If all you have is a survey, a typical boundary survey does not have spot elevations on it. A typical boundary survey is what you receive when you close on a property or you are refinancing. It tells you what your meets and bounds are, where your property lines are, and where the structure is located, but it doesn't tell you what the height is of the ground and the height is of the building itself. So you will need something else to go on top of a typical boundary survey, which is a construction survey. And that is an update of your current boundary survey with more information. After you've received that, you can start reaching out to different engineers and architects to start figuring out the different foundation type, the appearance, and potentially getting some soil samples of the property. When you're looking at different foundation types, you could be going up on columns, you could be utilizing your existing structure, or you could be redoing your structure altogether. We'll go over some of the different foundation ideas over a few slides. You'll also be able to, at this point, determine the appearance of the final project. If you're only going up a couple of feet, you have the opportunity to potentially use a stem wall and make it a crawl space so that it doesn't look like it's up on columns. But you also, in the process, may decide to raise your home even higher so that you can park underneath it. That's all going to be part of that initial design process. A couple of other things to consider is that you may require soil samples. A soil sample or a geotech report is going to tell you what the bearing capacity is of your soil and what the best foundation type is for your property. There's also the opportunity that you can excavate your existing foundation and see what your existing foundation type is and what its embedment into caprock is to see if it is sufficient enough to hold up new columns going up and creating your new raised home. Once you've received all of your drawings and everything's completed, you're going to want to reach out to contractors. There's quite a few general contractors down here that are going through this exact process and have gone through a certification to be able to perform this work. The contractors will be managing the entire project. We do have a preferred vendor list on our webpage. The contractor is going to help manage the house raising contractor as well as the other trades associated with your project, whether it be mechanical, electrical, or plumbing. There's also the opportunity to reduce the elevation portion of the project fee by bundling home elevations. And this is through economy of scale. If you and 4 or 5 of your neighbors want to go through this process together, there's going to be a good bundling opportunity in order to make things a little bit cheaper from the home elevation standpoint. One of the main reasons for this is the mobilization cost for the contractor and the house raising contractor will decrease because they're able to do multiple properties one after the other. Once you have a contract with a general contractor and you're ready to move forward and your financing is in place, you're going to want to apply for your local permit. Down here in Monroe County, we have multiple jurisdictions. We have unincorporated Monroe County, Village Isla Mirada, Layton, Key Colony Beach, Marathon, Key West, and each of them have different requirements. They also have different utility providers as well, whether you could be with Florida Keys Electric or Keys Energy. Getting your local building department review process is different in each jurisdiction, so you should reach out to your local building department to make sure that all of these are being applied for correctly. The other option that you have is your contractor can actually submit your permits for you, which can take away some of the headache because contractors are very familiar with this process, as are architects and engineers. When you're preparing for a home elevation, there's a few processes that you have to go through before you start to actually see everything come together. The first is that the building gets braced. Any existing structural members might end up receiving some additional cross bracing to stabilize them during the move. You may also decide to start preserving the vegetation around your home and relocating it into pots in order to replant it later. And then you'll also have to disconnect your utilities, your electric, water, sewer, gas, and sometimes your mechanical equipment as well. Disconnecting the utilities does require approval from the local authority having jurisdiction as well, and the contractor will know how to call in all of these inspections for you. Now that your home is prepared to be raised, the next piece is that the home actually gets built up onto those Lincoln logs, and you end up putting in your additional foundation material underneath. There's multiple foundation options, and it all depends on your soil's bearing capacity and the location of caprock. You could be putting in some new concrete piles and concrete columns coming up, potentially with some grade beams. You might also discover that your existing home and its existing foundation are structurally stable enough to utilize those existing columns for your existing house to support a home on top of it. So you may decide that you're actually going to build on top of your existing home and abandon the structure beneath. This is an option that is very hard to come by down here, as a lot of ground level homes that were built out of CBS do not have the sufficient foundation bearing capacity that is required by the Florida Building Code as of now. Once your new foundation is in, the next piece is to lower your home back onto the foundation. In this process, there's strapping and mitigation that goes in. All the strapping will be different based on the different materials that are used in your floor structure and what your floor is connecting to column-wise. You will get your utilities reconnected. You'll be building your stairs, your ramps, your porches, anything else additional that you need there. Everything's going to get all cleaned up. You might have some stucco work that happens on the columns below. Perhaps you are adding a ground floor concrete slab underneath, or maybe a 299 square foot ground floor enclosure, and then also landscaping. The goal of raising your home is to help with your insurance prices. It's to help keep your premiums down, and also to keep everything looking aesthetically pleasing. Raising a home provides you with the opportunity to park your car underneath or to have additional space, but it's also making your home sturdier and hopefully will last a lot longer through our next flood condition. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation. Again, this is the Keyswide Home Elevation Education Project being put on. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Module 4, Part 1. My name is Caroline Horn, and I'm the manager of FERM. In this module, we'll list as many possible options for funding for your elevation project. This list is not comprehensive, and we aren't recommending any of these products over the others. We simply want to make you aware of the products so you can do your own research before meeting with your banker. Only you and your banker will know what is best for you. Let's begin with the Home Equity Line of Credit, or HELOC. A HELOC works like a credit card, and you only pay interest during the draw period. You repay during the repayment period, and how much credit you may access is based on the equity in your home. A home equity loan is a lump sum of cash for a one-time expense, similar to a second mortgage, and the interest to improve, though, is deductible on your income tax. Mortgage refinancing is an option that can help you lower your interest rate or switch from a variable interest rate to a fixed interest rate. A home renovation loan enables you to borrow the money for needed repairs at the time you are purchasing your home. So if you're purchasing a home that you know is going to need repairs that you intend to elevate before you've even moved in, you can get the financing ahead of time. The Veterans Administration offers many types of loans and refinancing options to help active duty service members, veterans, and their families. A construction loan funds only for the cost of the project and is usually just for a period of a year. We used the website Investopedia to compile this list and found it to be a good resource among many resources available. Take some time to do your own research. You may find that what you think is impossible is possible with the right planning and expert advice from your banker. Next up, we'll address non-traditional funding options and benefits of mitigation, including grant funding, tax credits and incentives, PACE, and state revolving loan program. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Lalbachan, Mitigation Administrator for Monroe County Building Department. I'm here to present the Flood Mitigation Assistant FMA grant program for elevation of home funded by FEMA. Each year, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, set aside funding under the Flood Mitigation Assistant Program, FMA, for the elevation of home. For example, in 2020, FEMA allocated close to $126 million nationwide for individual flood mitigation projects, which include elevation. The FMA elevation program is a cost-sharing program or a match program. All NFIP program properties are eligible for the FMA program. FEMA provides 75% of funding for costs in any elevation project. 25% of the funds should be provided by the homeowner. However, FEMA may contribute up to 100% or 90% for some projects. Federal cost share for properties that are under 100% or 90% should be severe property loss or repetitive property loss. Severe property loss can be defined as having at least 2 separate NFIP claim payments exceeding market value of the structure, or having at least 4 NFIP claim payments of $5,000 or more with a cumulative payment exceeding $20,000. For repetitive loss, having 2 NFIP claims where the average cost equal or exceeding 25% of market value of that structure. FEMA would contribute $150,000 of $150,000 for construction costs plus engineering and permitting. Top budget items that would be part of the project budget are engineering services, permitting, budget of foundation, building of foundation, construction of flood system, physical elevation of structure, and attachment of the structure onto the foundation. All projects must be cost effective. Cost effective on an average elevation project is that the project should be $175,000. However, due to different regions of the country, cost prices may be different. However, all projects must be cost effective. FEMA estimated deadline, application award homeowners agreement timeline. Monroe County is currently drafting application for the FMA program. FEMA application opening cycle is estimated to be on September 1st, 2021. FEMA application deadline, January 2nd, 2022. Estimated FEMA award of FMA elevation projects should be on October 1st, 2022. County will be starting working with homeowners in January 2023 on agreements. And all FMA application has all FMA project has 24 to 36 months from award to completed. Again, my name is Mike Lalbachan. You can mitigation administrator for Monroe County. That's my phone number. My phone number is 305-453-8796, or you can find me at lalbachan.mike@monroecountyfl.com. My final note is that this is a yearly program, and if you're preparing to submit an application, we are accepting application as of now. And you can find some additional information on these following website: monroecountyfl.gov, FEMA.gov, FEMA.gov grant mitigation flood. Thank you.
Welcome to Module 4, Part 2. Once again, this is Caroline Horn from FIRM, and in this module, I'm going to outline the state and federal programs and incentives that can help you fund your project. Acknowledging the special hazards Americans are facing, including flooding, increased frequency and intensity of storms and wildfires, federal and state governments are implementing programs to address the issue of hazard mitigation. The STORM Act, PACE, the Army Corps of Engineers Coastal Study of Monroe County, Resilient Florida Trust Fund, and a growing number of tax incentive programs support communities and individuals in efforts to mitigate. The STORM Act, or Safeguarding Tomorrow Through Ongoing Risk Mitigation, amends existing legislation to allow FEMA to contribute funds to revolving loan programs administered by individual states. Grants awarded to applicants like local communities through revolving loans are intended to be used to mitigate the impact of natural hazards, reduce the repetitive and severe repetitive loss properties, and improve the community CRS standing. Details are forthcoming, and the first funds will be available in 2022. PACE is a long-term fixed-rate source of financing that allows homeowners to do energy conservation and hurricane hardening improvements to their property. Property owners can use PACE financing to cover 100% of the costs involved in installing eligible projects, including all related equipment, materials, and labor. Eligible improvements include air conditioners, roofs, windows and doors, water heaters, solar panels, pool heaters, hurricane shutters, and generators. If, for instance, you have a concrete home and your method for elevating is infill, you'll need a new roof. The cost of the roof replacement portion of your project could be funded by PACE. PACE stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy, which refers to the method of securing the loan. The loan is attached to your property tax bill. So when you sell the house, it stays with the house. Therefore, be aware that you may have trouble refinancing or selling your home with the assessment attached to the property. The Federal Housing Finance Agency has made it clear that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac should neither purchase nor refinance mortgages which are encumbered by PACE assessments. If you pursue PACE funding for any portion of your project, be certain that you fully understand the terms and are prepared to repay the loan if you want to sell or refinance. The Army Corps of Engineers Coastal Study began in 2018 and is expected to be completed in September of this year. The study identified 3 targeted mitigation strategies: US 1 shoreline stabilization in 6 areas, elevation of residential properties and floodproofing of commercial properties, and floodproofing critical infrastructure at risk. Estimated project cost is $2.6 billion in a 65-35 cost share, with 65% federal funds and 35% non-federal funding. Fiscal year 23 budget requests will be submitted for the US 1 revetments and critical infrastructure, and the floodproofing of structures will follow that. If you find that you cannot afford home elevation at this time, you can at least set a goal for saving in case the Army Corps money is awarded. If you signed up for the firm newsletter, you will be notified of updates with the funding. The Florida Senate passed 2 bills, the Documentary Stamp Tax Distributions Bill and the Resilient Florida Trust Fund. These conforming bills associated with the state budget establish the statewide plan to fund key infrastructure programs. The 3-part infrastructure plan revises the distribution of dock stamp proceeds and also includes funding from the federal stimulus package to prioritize investing in state and local affordable housing programs, mitigating the impacts of sea level rise, and enhancing wastewater programs, including septic to sewer conversions. The new framework provides predictable funding for all 3 infrastructure priorities on a recurring basis. The 2 bills are tied to a separate measure that will ask voters in 2022 to approve a property tax break for people who elevate homes to address potential flooding. The issue involves the assessed values of homes for tax purposes when they are elevated. Under the proposal, such improvements would not be considered in determining assessed values if the work meets the National Flood Insurance Program and Florida Building Code elevation requirements. While a lot of this funding goes towards infrastructure projects, we can take heart that a common sense approach to mitigation is finally being embraced by leaders in Tallahassee and Washington, D.C. States like Florida, Louisiana, New Jersey, and New York continue to push for reforms to the NFIP that include a rate cap on flood insurance premiums, increased funding for mitigation programs, and an expanded increased cost of compliance, currently only $30,000. The NFIP has been reauthorized for the short term 16 times since 2017 and is up for reauthorization in September, on September 30th of this year. We encourage you to share your concerns with Senators Rubio and Scott and Congressman Jimenez and let them know that you support meaningful reforms. If flood insurance is more affordable, then people will have the funds to bring their homes into compliance instead of paying too much for flood insurance. This is the final module of this workshop series. We hope we've provided you with useful information. So what now? If you're ready to start your project, we'll begin work on the cooperative bidding process. If you're not quite there, perhaps the best place to start is to get an elevation certificate if you don't already have one. Next, start exploring your financing options, and then meet with an architect or structural engineer to discuss your project and draw up plans. This program will continue to evolve and will change as your needs change. Again, we thank you for participating and welcome any and all questions and feedback.